Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today we're discussing the new Mission Impossible movie. I have mixed feelings. I watched it a day ago and I'm still mulling it over. For a movie called Final Reckoning, it didn't feel very final. Now for anyone who's grown up on these films, it's the end of an era. Like you do feel like some part of you has died, but by the end of the film, you really do get the sense that Tom Cruise wants to keep going. I have no problems if he wants to keep doing these films until the end of time. But you called it Final Reckoning, sir. Nobody told you to end it. So I'm gonna need this movie to feel a little bit more final. Now, starting with what I liked, the story has always been an issue since the last film, like this whole AI taking over the world. However, I'm not gonna bash the story too much because it's so absurd and it does make sense in this world. Like, of course, Ethan's last mission has to do with nuclear weapons and saving the world. So I'm not gonna go in on him too much about that. Like, I think it makes sense. I also like the constant flashbacks and the way they were able to incorporate different characters from past films. Like, as someone who's a fan of all the movies, like, I think they're all unique and special in their own way. I didn't have a problem with the flashbacks and the constant reminders. Again, like, this is a 2.5 hour plus, like, it's a really long movie. And so you do kind of want to remind the audience. I think the action sequences, as usual, were quite stunning. And again, if you wanted to continue until the end of time, that would have been fine with me. I loved all the sequences in the ocean. There's one scene where he has the suit on and he's sinking to the bottom and he kind of lights up these flares and it's absolutely stunning and it's beautiful to watch. And this actually, like, the difference between this film and prior films is that they don't have that many of these huge action sequences, but the ones they do have are quite long, but they're really well done. And so you kind of have to sit back and appreciate what you're watching. Like, I think this definitely needs to be seen on the biggest screen possible. I did like the final action sequence. We've seen him do so many things in the air. And at first it seems pretty basic, but the scene almost goes on for so long, and it's the only time you feel like Ethan might have reached a dead end. And I think if the whole movie revolved around Ethan dying, I would have been perfectly fine with that. But it doesn't. And not only does he live, it almost doesn't really make sense how he survived. Like, he's amazing, but not this amazing. And I think the movie does such a great job building up to Ethan's death because he barely gets out of all these situations. And so I think that was a fatal flaw of the film. Another fatal flaw is the villain. Now, Mission Impossible has never been that great when it comes to having these villains. Like, the only villain I can think of that really had an impact was Henry Cavill and Philip Seymour Hoffman. This villain, they have done nothing with him. Like, the whole point of Dead Reckoning was to introduce this AI, to take us to Final Reckoning, which was to introduce the grand plan, which was to have these nuclear weapons destroy the Earth. The way the villain is utilized in this film, there was almost no point to having him. He's given nothing to do. Physically, you don't think he can take him on. And also mentally, I think someone like Ethan Hunt, either you need to have someone like Henry Cavill that can physically take him on, or someone who's really smart like Philip Seymour Hoffman. And this villain had neither. And the way he died rubbed me the wrong way in this film because you just feel like, what was the point? I also think the cast was given nothing to do. Like, outside of Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg, Tom Cruise pretty much has no chemistry with anyone on screen. Throughout these Mission Impossible movies, they've tried to give him friendships and love interests, but I don't think he's a very easy actor to have chemistry with. And so the whole thing just feels very awkward and forced. And for me, the Mission Impossible movies work best when Ethan just focuses on missions and we're introduced to new and upcoming actors that get this opportunity. And this movie, they tried to do too much. They tried to give him a love interest. They tried to give him friendship. And it was like, just focus on the mission. Now, the ending of the film, I have mixed emotions because there's a scene when he's up in the air and he's struggling to control this little raggedy plane. And it's the only scene that I've seen in any of these films where you really feel like Ethan has reached a dead end. And there's one shot that's absolutely stunning where he kind of goes through like these clouds. And if the movie had ended there, and just had a voiceover of how he saved the world, I think it would have been quite stunning. Instead, he lives And I don't know what someone like Ethan Hunt does when he's not saving the world. Like, there's really no point in him surviving. And I think towards the end of the film, you do get a sense that they struggled with the ending because what was the point? I mean, it kind of ends and everyone goes their own way, but it's like Ethan has nothing to live for. So I don't know why he needed to live. But I think having Ethan die in the air or like die doing one of these crazy stunts would have been really spectacular. And this isn't me saying like, oh, I wanted Ethan to die, but you said Final Reckoning, sir. And so I would not be surprised if somehow these Mission Impossible movies get picked back up and he kind of comes back around. And I think the lack of consistency with the film is what I'm struggling with, because on one hand, you feel really sad that it's over, but then on the other hand, you don't feel too sad because you don't really think it's over. Overall, I do think it's worth watching. I think just the underwater sequence alone is worth seeing in IMAX. Like, my jaw was actually dropped. My jaw dropped watching that. And short of that, I will let you come to your own conclusions. So you guys let me know what you think, and it's on the